it's definitely harder to, I guess, find adult time and time to meet with friends and get together, especially since most of my friends work full time. So I have all the time to play and get together with people during the week that they don't.
Hey, sweet mama. Welcome back to another episode of Mom in Process. I'm your host and creator, Amy Cawthorn. And today we have an everyday mom guest, which is really, we all know, an everyday superhero. I love having these conversations with these quote, everyday mom guests because everybody has a story. Everybody gets into this role or becomes a stay-at-home mom in their own way. And today, my beautiful guest is Kayla Zenner. She is a farm wife. She is a mom to two very busy boys, and she's a teacher by trade. She's a newer stay-at-home mom. So she's been in this role for a little over a year now, and she has absolutely loved it. She shares with us her lowest low in her journey in motherhood. And she also shares with us her big wins and her successes and how she finds joy in this role being at home. So grab a cozy beverage and join Kayla and I in this conversational journey. Hi, Kayla. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be here.
Before we dive in, first of all, I'm super excited to just have this everyday mom conversation with you. This is your first podcast. Yay.
Yes. Yes.
And I know that you listen to the podcast. I know that you follow the community pretty closely. So it's just really nice to like chat with you and see you. I see you on Instagram and I follow you. And so it's always just really nice to have these open conversations and make the formal connection. and it's so cool because we live so close together. I mean, we're in the same area. We're both in Idaho. So it's nice to finally like have this conversation. So welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to, like I said, to be here and just talk mom stuff.
Yeah, all things mom life. Yay. Okay, so why don't you take a minute or two and just introduce yourself to the audience and give us a little background.
Okay, so I'm Kayla. I have two little boys. I have a 4-year-old and a 10-month-old, and I can't believe that I'm saying I have a 4-year-old. Previously, I was a math teacher, and really, I just started staying at home this last September. I kind of took an extended maternity leave. So just kind of a year break to evaluate everything.
Mhm.
Like you said, I live near you in Idaho. I'm married to my high school sweetheart. He farms, so that keeps him pretty busy.
Mhm.
um, and that's really most about me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big, I mean, I know it's like hard to sum up your life in like a 60-second dialogue, but I think that you touched on a couple of things there. First of all, you're a boy mom. Yay. Yay, boy moms. And you guys live on a farm, so you have this, very agricultural, lifestyle, which is always, I feel like, so Instagram and Pinterest beautiful, but there is so much work involved in it. In fact, we were just talking about the fact that it's 8 o'clock at night doing this recording, and you were so grateful that your husband was home to help put the boys to bed because he's not home a lot of the nights as he's working in the field and doing what he needs to do. But I don't think we always see like the back end of that. We see these beautiful farm lives and we're like, oh, I would love to participate in that or,
Yeah.
or live this life. And it's like, well, are you ready for it?
Yeah, it definitely looks beautiful, but I mean, there's conversations that happen in the ag community with the farm wives, and I feel like the farm wives have kind of their own little community because
Hmm.
it's so different than other wives and moms because our husband's schedules are pretty much unpredictable.
Mm-hmm.
And when the farming dictates when they're going to be home and when they're not. And I mean, there was like a 2-week stretch that we really didn't get to see my husband because he left before 6 a.m. and was home after 9 p.m. most
Mm-hmm.
nights.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
So
definitely different.
so you're like single parenting, in those moments, solo parenting, I guess would be a better way to
Yeah.
put it. Yeah.
Yeah. Solo parenting for different seasons of the year, which I mean, I'm thankful that it's only for a few weeks at a time and not single momming, but
Right.
sometimes it feels like I'm a single mom.
Right. And the unpredictability side of it would be challenging too. So not knowing when, okay, this, not knowing like the next day, like I'm going to be gone all day,
Yeah.
you get like maybe 24 hours notice and you're like, I needed to get this done. Okay. Guess I'm not going to, yep, I'm doing it on my own.
Yeah. During the busy time, I pretty much just assume that he's not going to be home
Okay.
and make my plans that way. So I'm not disappointed when he's not home and I counted on him to be home.
Right. That's a really good way to set yourself up for, I guess, success maybe, and not not like
Yeah. Well,
overestimate him being home. Yeah.
yeah, it's been a learned process for sure.
Hmm.
And I've just had to be like, okay, I'm just going to not count on him being home. And if he is, fantastic.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about your transition. That was another thing that you touched on in your intro, the transition from your career to being home. I would love to hear first of all, I would love to hear if this was always in the plan. Was this always your plan?
No, it actually wasn't.
Okay.
So last spring, March, I would have been like 7 months pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And the daycare that my 4-year-old had been going to decided to close its doors.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I mean, living rural, there's not very many daycare options.
Right.
Uh, so my daycare options at that time were to add an extra, basically 2-hour commute to my. I'm already gone. We would leave our house at 6:30 a.m. and wasn't home until after 5. I mean, granted, I did a 4-day school week, but adding 2 hours a day to that just wasn't feasible for us.
Mm-hmm.
And in addition, being a teacher, like I sign a contract and I'm locked into a year. So even if I was able to find a new daycare, I was just very tentative having a brand new baby going into a new daycare that what happens if I hate it and I'm
Right.
locked into a year contract and just all of that stress of thinking about the future um, landed on me taking an extended maternity leave.
Mm-hmm.
The school district I work for offered a 1-year leave of absence for maternity leave, but kind of just all aligned
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
to work out for me to stay home for a year, which I have loved it being
Mm-hmm.
home.
Mm-hmm. That's uh, that's amazing that you had that opportunity to kind of try it first and see how it went and how you guys could, especially being able to do it for like an extended period of time versus 12 weeks or 6 weeks. A lot of women don't even get the full 12 weeks. You can kind of financially see if you can make that work too. And then it also gives you the opportunity to know, do I miss my career? Do I really want to go back to that type of work? Am I content being home? Can I find value in being home? It just really gives you a full opportunity to evaluate if this is a good lifestyle for you, because really, like, being a full-time mom is a lifestyle, just like running a farm, being a farm family, like that is a lifestyle as well as a career. It is so much more than just a job. It's an entire lifestyle, and I feel the same about being a full-time mom. It's like, is this the lifestyle that we want? So I love that you were able to have that opportunity. How did that transition go? Like in the beginning, was it really tough, or did you feel like, nope,
I
this is what I was meant to do?
definitely tough. And I think anytime you throw in a new baby into the mix, it's going to
Mhm.
be tough no matter what. Um, I mean, I kind of started in the maternity leave on my summer break. My 10-month-old was born in June. So regardless if I was going to be working or not, I would have had those first like 2 months
Mhm.
home without a job. But it definitely took a lot of time to kind of get into a groove. Honestly, even until December, I still felt like a chicken with my head cut off most
Mhm.
days. And just recently have I felt like we've kind of started getting into more of a routine of our days.
Mhm.
I'm a very routine centered person. So once I kind of figured out that I needed that routine,
Mhm.
um, it's definitely helped. And it also helps that my 10-month-old actually takes consistent naps now,
Mhm.
whereas before he wasn't.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I don't know if it was the staying home full time or the new baby that made everything so hectic, or kind of a mix of all of it.
Yeah. So how was it having two of them at home too? I mean, because you still have a busy, well, at the time you still had a busy 3-year-old running
Yes.
around.
Thankfully, my 3-year-old was obsessed with the baby.
Mhm.
Uh, like wanted to hold him all the time, just wanted nothing but to make sure that he was happy.
Mhm.
Uh, so the transition to the two, I felt like was so much easier than transition to one.
Mhm.
0 to 1 like rocked my world, and 1 to 2 seemed so much easier.
Mhm. Yeah, you have a really nice age difference between the two of them. So, he was able to kind of help. I imagine that's my oldest two are very close in age. And I would say the transition from 0 to 1 was the hardest on us as a couple, just figuring out how to be parents. I mean, you're scared out of your flipping mind. You're like, what do you mean I'm supposed to go home with this thing and keep it alive? I know that I
Yeah.
wanted this, but I don't know what I'm doing. And then the transition, I was already home going from Gracie to Olivia, but then I was outnumbered.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my goodness. And Gracie was such a needy kiddo. Just she wanted to be with me all the time. That transition from 1 to 2 was actually really hard for me. And then from 2 to 3, oh my gosh, it was just the most beautiful experience. Like I was like, we're never going to be done having babies if it's always this beautiful, because then you forget about all of the other stuff. But yeah, it is always interesting talking to moms and just seeing where the struggles lie and which transition was the most difficult. So I'm really happy that you shared that. So I want to hear, in this whole process so far of in your journey of motherhood, what has been your lowest low? Like what has been your rock bottom moment?
Oh gosh. I would say I probably was at my lowest low freshly postpartum with my first.
Mhm.
Um, Looking back, I probably had some like postpartum anxiety, postpartum something that just didn't get addressed. And, prepping to come into two babies, my husband and I had some conversations. I actually ended up hiring a postpartum doula with this second baby, just because the postpartum area was so hard with our first, especially like I said, with having a farmer as a husband. I mean, we
Mhm.
were back from the hospital, and that same day he was back to work. So
Mhm.
I didn't get a week home with my husband and new babies. I got the hospital with
Right.
my husband and new babies. So we were a lot more prepared that time. But there were so many times that my husband would come home and I'm just like in tears bawling, like had been bawling for hours.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, that 0 to 1 was so hard on me.
Mm-hmm.
And but I think it also really prepared me to have a realistic view of what postpartum can be and really prep for that for my second.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we read these stories and we hear about it, but you don't really realize how it hits you until really honestly until you're through it. And then you look back and you're like, wow, that sucked. Like that was so bad. And in the moment, even when you're crying, you're like, no, I can get through that. At least for me, I'm like, no, I can get through this. It's really not that bad. It's just a moment. And then
Yeah,
you're like, wait, but I've had this moment
a
every
lot.
day for a week. Yeah. Yeah. So what did you do to get yourself out of that rock bottom moment? I mean, I love that you took the steps to prepare yourself in the best way that you could with your second baby, but how did you get yourself kind of out of that rock bottom moment with the first?
With my first, I had so many issues with breastfeeding. I was very stuck on breast. And once I kind of came to terms that maybe I wouldn't be able to continue breastfeeding, that really helped bring me out of that. And I don't know why that whole thing really threw me into, like, I guess it was just that like mom shaming in my head that
Mm,
I should be able to do this. Why can't I do this? It's not working for me. And that was before I really knew anything about tongue ties and all of the things that do affect breastfeeding. And I just wasn't knowledgeable with it.
mm-hmm,
Uh, Second time around, I'm still being able to breastfeed at 10 months. So
mm-hmm,
it's crazy the different experiences that can
mm-hmm.
happen. But with my first, I think it really was coming to terms with that picture I had in my head of what postpartum was going to look like, and it's not looking like that anymore. And just
Right.
letting go of that really helped.
Mm-hmm. I'm so proud of you for being able to recognize that and articulate that because I think that we all have these visions. This is just my opinion, but I've talked to other moms too. Like we all have these visions for what even motherhood in general should look like, what being a mom, what being a stay-at-home mom, what being a first-time mom, nursing baby, and you just think it's going to be so cozy and cuddly and nice, just and so beautiful, and then it doesn't come out that way. It doesn't turn out that way. And then you just hit the nail on the head with like that mom shame, like that self shame that we put on ourselves. Like I'm broken. There's something wrong with me. And really every single person that you would ever talk to would be like, no, there's nothing wrong with you, Kayla. You're doing
Yeah.
an amazing job. And it's all in our heads. It's
Mhm.
so in our heads. And I don't know, we put that pressure on ourselves. I don't know where that comes from, but I'm really glad that you were able to let that go and then just move forward with your motherhood journey, even if it didn't look like the way that you'd anticipated with breastfeeding and stepping away from that. So where did you guys just move out of breastfeeding and go to a bottle and kind of work on that transition? Yeah.
Yes, I tried pumping for a while and I just knew it wasn't going to be,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't do that long term. And
Yeah.
props out to all those moms that can sit there and pump full time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I despise it so much.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I have talked to moms and bless them. They have pumped full time and fed a bottle. They didn't even nurse. Like I talked to one gal and she did it for over a year, just pumping full time while she was working and strictly breastfed, just not nursing. And I was never able to really use the pump much. In fact, when I went back to work with Gracie, I don't bond. They talk about bonding with your pump, and my milk supply was like right off the bat, like just done.
Yeah.
So it's really tough. Okay, so transitioning from your career now into being a stay-at-home mom, you have an abundance of beautiful hobbies, and you have grown a very respectable sized Instagram page in a pretty short period of time, it seems like. So can you talk about that and how that has affected your mom life and your journey in full-time motherhood?
Yeah. So once I kind of started getting my groove into motherhood and knowing that I was going to have this time at home, I knew that I needed to be able to do something for me, or I wasn't going to be able to be the mom that I wanted to be. Um, and that's kind of where all of these small little hobbies have kind of come from, is just finding little things that bring me joy, that I can also share with others. So I started doing some like Play-Doh kits, and that actually came from, I was making them for my 3-year-old just to keep him busy and happy during the day. And um, people are like, you should sell these. And I had the time and I enjoyed putting them together and decided to do that. And same with, I do a little bit of baking. Baking is something that really brings me joy, and it's one of those things that I can do and it just calms me down. But I really knew I needed to make sure I found something that I could do for myself, even if I've got the 2 boys running around like crazy in the background. Finding something, an outlet for me that, I mean, so many times moms talk about their self-care is a bubble bath, which, don't get me wrong, at the end of a really long, stressful day, I love to just go and soak in a bath, but I needed more than just going and soaking in a bath. And to me, doing something was more self-care than just doing nothing.
Yeah, I love that. So were you inspired by somebody else that kind of led you in the direction of this type of self-care? Or was this something that you just were able to do some self-reflective work on and say, no, I just know who I am and what I need?
Yeah, I think I just realized that I enjoy doing it, and I would much rather spend time doing something that I enjoy doing than not. And if I can make a little money here and there doing something that I enjoy, um, fantastic. I never wanted to put like that burden on myself that I needed to like make a full-time income from it, which I think has also really helped to make it enjoyable also. And just that self-reflection that I knew myself, I knew I needed to be doing something here and there that would keep my mind kind of sane, when really not going from talking to people all day long to not talking to anybody but a 3-year-old and a little tiny baby. I needed something, especially because I started my stay-at-home mom time. Basically, my husband started Harvest a month in. So, and Harvest is our go time. Like, I don't see him for a month, basically.
Yeah, right. I commend you for being able to understand that that's what you needed so quickly, because it took me a very long time to figure out what I loved and what I needed. But I will say one of the things is that I did keep trying things. But I was trying things that I thought that I should be doing and that I should have like be good at or be interested in from this like stereotypical full-time mom standpoint, instead of, oh, I'm actually genuinely interested in this, so let's give it a try. I've used this example on the podcast before of, I thought I needed a sewing machine because I was going to make all these baby clothes and I was going to be the mom that sewed all the costumes. And it turns out I'm not that mom.
Yeah.
And then when I finally realized that's okay, that there are plenty of moms that love to do that and they're amazing moms, but I don't love to do that. And I'm still an amazing mom. And that's okay too. So I commend you for being able to recognize that and follow your heart with some of the things that you really have enjoyed doing? And do you include your kids in this? Obviously you're doing the Play-Doh kits, but do you bake with the
Mhm.
boys, or is this like, nope,
Oh,
this
yeah.
is mommy time?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I mean, there's times that, like, while my youngest is napping and my older one goes and does quiet time at that
Mhm,
time,
mhm,
and if I want to do something and I want to bake, I'll go and bake by myself. But there's also times that my older one, my 4-year-old, he wants to make cookies or he wants to do something, and he gets so much joy out of doing it also that it's just fun to do with him as well.
mhm. So I want to go back to something earlier. You mentioned that you really got a handle on your routine, like in your household, and you're pretty routine based. So what do you use for your routine building? Is it all in your head? Do you use a chart on the fridge? Do you use a program? How have you kind of worked on your routine? Is that something that just kind of developed naturally, or is this something you had to work on? I'm really interested because routines I feel like are super. I kept Googling when I was a first stay-at-home mom, like stay-at-home mom routines. And I kept trying to find this like magical, perfect routine system. So what have
Um,
you done?
it's definitely just kind of developed naturally. Like I said, I
Hmm.
really didn't start getting a handle on that I needed to start doing something until December.
Hmm.
Um, and it's just kind of developed naturally. The boys and I kind of have our quiet time. I get to drink my coffee. They usually play a little bit in the morning.
Hmm.
And then we have breakfast, and it's just setting aside those structured times. And especially, like I said earlier, once my youngest started doing napping
Hmm.
and making my 4-year-old go and do quiet time, but just knowing to figuring out that I can have my 4-year-old go and have quiet time by himself and he doesn't have to be with me just because he's awake,
Hmm.
uh, really helped with that also. And just setting up those structure times so that we weren't having as much screen time during the day.
Hmm.
Also, because before it was just willy-nilly, and before I know it, he's been watching TV for way too long.
Hmm.
And that's when the tantrums start and
Hmm.
all of that kind of stuff. And just, yeah, there's nothing in stone. I tried doing like a set out from this time to this time, we're going to be doing arts and crafts or something like our Play-Doh.
Hmm.
And it doesn't work.
Great. As Mother's Day approaches, I wanted to be sure to take a minute and let you know that I've put together a couple of very beautiful, very empowering products specifically for my stay-at-home mom listeners, because I have tried to find specifically labeled stay-at-home mom merchandise because I want to feel empowered. I want to feel excited about my role as a mom. Everything else that I've seen out there, which is also beautiful products, but it's catered towards moms in general. And I wanted something specific for my role, for my full-time mom role. So I put together a couple of beautiful products that I'm so excited to share with you. There is a link in the show notes below. You can also head on over to my website or the Instagram page for links to those products as well. Don't be shy. Send this to your spouse, send this to the people that you love and say, this is what I really want for Mother's Day. These are the things that really mean a lot to me, that empower me, inspire me, and make me feel good about the role that I'm in, not just as a mom, but also as a stay-at-home mom, as a full-time mother. So head on over to Instagram or my website. Check the link in the show notes below. And with that being said, let's get back to this conversation.
Like,
Right.
I had to have that flexibility still, but also having that routine of we're going to do this and this kind of in this time frame.
Right. So it's definitely more of a routine versus a schedule. It's not like by 9 o'clock, we're going to do this, and by noon, we're going to do this. And it's just more of a routine of how your days flow together.
Yeah.
And every day for the most part just flows the same, but it also gives space to allow for moments when it can't stay exactly the same because you have kind of this structure that you can always go back to, or this system that you can always go back to. Ours always revolves around meal times. And then
Yes.
anything like in between that, I try and fit something in for myself. The kids fit something in for themselves. But I always know by like, one of the things that I always went back to is I was building routines, and I tried to do the scheduling thing too in the beginning. And oh man, every parenting book still tells you like, no, don't throw the schedule out the window, no scheduling. But for me, I'm like, I need a schedule. Like by 9 o'clock, I need to be here. By 11 o'clock, I got to be here. And it doesn't work. So
No.
embracing the fact like, okay, if we have breakfast done by about 8 o'clock, that's great. If we can have lunch by around noon, that's fantastic. And then dinner's on the table, 5:36 for us, but and then the things in between kind of seem to flow a little smoother that way. So when you were talking about structure with screen time and things like that, how have you shifted? How have you changed that? So what does that look like for you guys now?
I really try and limit kind of his tablet time to when the baby is napping.
Mm-hmm.
So it allows me, if I'm not doing something with him, that kind of keeps him occupied. So I have time for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then usually in the evenings after dinner, while we kind of wind down from the day, he gets a little bit of TV time also.
Mm-hmm.
I just noticed when he gets too much TV time, that's when tantrums and meltdowns, and our day does not go as smoothly when there's more screen time involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. We took it a step further even, and we just do like movie Mondays. So like I have specific days for certain types of screen time, just because even during the day, and this is just my girls, I think what your system that sounds like is amazing. But for my girls, they were like, is it tablet time yet? Is it tablet time yet? Or can we watch a movie? Can we watch a movie? And I was like, to the point where like, I'm throwing the TV out the window because stop asking me for it every single day. So for us, we just had to realize what our children's kids' needs were, and then kind of embrace that. I don't think that I don't think there's any right or wrong. I think if there's some intentionality behind it and parents knowing like we have to limit this and do what works best for our family is amazing. So I think my hat goes off to you guys on that too. It's so tough. um yeah. Okay, so how has your sense of community changed, or your friendships and relationships changed since you've transitioned into full-time motherhood? Has that changed at all?
Yeah. I mean, I had a lot of friendships at school where I was working. Um, and when that kind of stopped, it was a lot harder to kind of foster those friendships. And I find I have to be a lot more intentional at reaching out to schedule kind of times to meet with people, rather than after school, we got together for a little bit before I picked Brody up from daycare, or
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely harder to, I guess, find adult time and time to meet with friends and get together, especially since most of my friends work full time. So I have all the time to play and get together with people during the week that they don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And are you able to do that during the week, or are most of your friends working? Because that's the other thing is like
Most of my friends work.
yeah. So it's hard because you're like, I'm available on Tuesday during the day and nobody's around to go have lunch with me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how have you shifted that then? And are you able to find like a sense of community now? Or is there any part of you that's battling like some like loneliness at home, being just you and the boys?
Yeah, I mean, really don't, I guess I don't really have a sense of community where I
Mm-hmm.
am. Um, but at the same time, like I said, I took this year and I've really just been focusing this year to savor the time with the boys. So I know I also haven't been making that a priority at
Mm-hmm.
this time. and just really trying to be intentional with my time with the boys, and maybe if it turns into something different, to try and foster some more community. But right now, I really don't.
Yeah, no, and that's totally honest and that's completely understandable. Just knowing that this is the time that you have to give to them, and if that is working for you, I think that's absolutely amazing. So is your plan to stay home, or is your plan to go back to work? What are your long-term plans?
The plan has been to go back to work.
Mhm.
Uh, I mean, if we could find a way for me to stay home, I probably would.
Mhm.
But the plan has been for me to return after this year.
After this year. Yeah. And so that would be like this next school year.
In September.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, you're not focused on stressing about community right now. If your plan is to go back, then you really want to soak up this time and love this time with the boys. And it'll be, if you do decide to go back, is there a little bit of hesitation around that? Is there some fear around that? Or is there excitement? What are your thoughts and feelings on possibly going back?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it makes me sad thinking about all of the time that they spend in daycare without me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of sadness, I guess, going back, because like I said at the beginning, I have really loved being home with them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but at the same time, right now my 4-year-old has been doing preschool 2 days a week,
Mm-hmm.
and he loves it so much and looks forward to it. So I know him having that time to go and see his friends every single day is also good. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of conflicting feelings, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a tough one where you're like, I see the value in this being home and I love this time. I mean, I'll just call it like selfish time, right? That time that we get to be with the kids. And I don't think there's anything wrong with admitting that, by the way, that like this is selfish time because we raised these are our children. We had our babies to have them to be parts of our lives, you know? And so there's that like very selfish side of I want to be home with them, but then there's also like the career side of you that, you know, is interested in continuing to pursue that. So I wish you luck in making that making that decision, and just kind of as you transition into that, back into that. Are you going to go back to the same school you were working at before possibly?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. There's probably, I'm just assuming, a little bit of you that's excited for that socialization part of it though. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Seeing other people every day definitely is different.
Yeah. Right. And where you're so rural, you know, when you're home, you're home. That's how we are. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, especially in the winter time where we live, like I might go, and I don't even realize it. I might go like 5, 6 days without leaving the house. And I don't
Oh, yeah,
realize it
for sure.
until like I'm starting to get claustrophobic, and then I think about it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't left the house since Saturday. I need to get out.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I schedule weekly grocery trips, and honestly, most of the time, those are just like a grocery pickup, and I'm driving there and I'm driving home most of the time.
Yes.
If the weather's nice, we stop and play at a park,
Hmm.
which is nice. But in the wintertime, it's so hard because
Hmm.
it's way too cold most of the time.
Hmm. So what advice do you have for mom listeners that are kind of new in this stay-at-home mom journey? Because I mean, I'm hearing that you're doing so many positive things, Kayla, so many good things. Like you have a really good routine down, like even your grocery pickup, like you have one day a week scheduled to like get your groceries and make sure that you can feed your family and you're not like scrambling, you know? So you're doing so many positive things, and you're also like filling in time with intentional time with the kids and playtime. And so what is your best advice for moms that are kind of struggling to kind of piece this all together and pull this all together?
I think really what it comes down to is thinking about there. I feel like there's such a mommy culture that we're just surviving through life, and looking at your life and figuring out, do you want to just survive, or do you want to look back on a large majority of your life? I mean, your kids are at home for 18 years or more if you have more than one kid, and think that I just survived during that time.
Mm-hmm.
So really look and see, what are the small things that you can do for yourself during the day. And like I said, it doesn't have to be like those typical self-care things. Like it literally could just be something you enjoy doing, and maybe your kids do help you do it. If that stresses you out for them to help you do it, then maybe they are doing it by themselves. There's so many times that I'm doing something in the kitchen when my 10-month-old is sitting in the high chair watching me, and my other one is just playing in the living room, and fostering that time that it's okay for them to play by themselves without me right there.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and knowing that's okay also. Just because you're home doesn't mean your kids can't play without you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And did it take you a little while to learn that? Or is that something that you kind of have embraced in motherhood, like in the beginning?
No, it definitely took me time. I think especially since I was working, like I had my weekends and I wanted to spend that time with my oldest so much. But even during those weekend times, I could feel myself being burnt out. And I really do think it's important for kids to learn to play solo
Mm-hmm.
and entertain themselves
Mm-hmm.
without constantly being entertained by other people. And I think that has also like saved my sanity, is my kids can play independently without me right there
Mm-hmm.
interrupting them and
Mm-hmm.
helping them play. And I think that also, one of the great things that came from like my Play-Doh kits when I started with my 4-year-old is find something that sparks their imagination and let them do that. Like sit back and observe them. I find so many times we find kids like finally using their imagination, and then we want to butt in.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that stops that fostering of independent play, and just like I said, fostering
Mm-hmm.
independent play is so important for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you think that that is what, like creating those Play-Doh kits and that independent time where you kind of set up an activity for them? Do you think that has helped cultivate this independent play sort of freedom that they now embrace and really can do on their own?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, especially in the beginning, it was definitely supervised time, but I was just observing the play. Like
Mm-hmm.
he sat back and his imagination came to life, and he didn't need me there saying, "Okay, now you do this and now you do that," and just letting him figure out what he wants to do next.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously, is like it's so fun to sit back and watch also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So do you have a background in Montessori or anything like that? Or have you kind of done anything with Montessori type learning?
I haven't. I looked into it a little bit as my oldest kind of grew up, but I don't have a background in it. I just
Mm-hmm.
have always found the concept of letting them figure things out
Mm-hmm.
to be so important. Also, as a teacher of teenagers, I see what happens when kids aren't forced to figure things out on their own.
Mm-hmm.
It just compounds so much.
Right. Yeah, I'm reading Julie Bogart's new book, Raising Critical Thinkers. And this all kind of plays into that same kind of concept where they need to learn to think for themselves and figure things out on themselves by themselves and not look at everything so like this is what I was told, so this is gospel, right? It's like, okay, this is what this news article has said, but let's bring in another piece of information and another piece of information. And we're going to dive into this and figure out who the writer was and what the background is of this writer. And then I'm going to figure out where does my opinion lie or where do I feel like the truth lies, you know? And I think as we think about that, we often think about older kids or adults in critical thinking. But I think fostering, like you were saying, that independent play and that independence at a young age really helps with the critical thinking, because then they're not just like, but mom said this and dad said this, or mom said the block has to go here. It's like, well, where do you think the block should go? Oh, you want the block
Yeah.
to go upside down on top of its head and sideways? Like, that sounds great. Let's see what happens,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It might drive me crazy that it's upside down, but if that's how he wants it,
mhm,
does it really hurt anything? No.
right. Right. Yeah. It's really interesting talking about different personalities of kids though, too, when you get into that, because my oldest Gracie has always been very structured. So like when she would play blocks, all of the purple blocks, go in a pile, all of the red blocks go in a pile. And she's like, even now with her closet and her drawers, like she sorts everything and keeps everything. And then my middle child is just like, she's my free spirit, free for all, and so it'll be interesting as your 10-month-old, as he kind of comes up and changes, and it'll be interesting to just see how he embraces that independent play and what he uses in his imagination
Mhm.
to play with that independently. Yeah. Sorry, I thought we were frozen. I was like, oh no, she's not there. Okay, Kayla, this was such a fun conversation with you. I absolutely love you doing so many other things. I mean, you have like your simple makeup tricks, your fashion. I do want to talk about fashion really quick, as I'm kind of looking through all of these incredible like hobbies and things that you share on Instagram. I want to talk about fashion. You really focus on mid-size fashion, but also what I love about this, and I want to kind of have a brief conversation about this too, is I mean, you put yourself together. I mean, you get up, and I don't know what your daily routine is, but you put yourself together, and you have a 10-month-old, and I think that's amazing because, as you know, in the podcast, I am all about like squashing this hot mess mom culture, because I think it is no longer serving us, and it is stifling our capabilities, and it is stifling us as mothers. And so I want to hear what your thoughts are on all of that.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's days that I don't get ready, but I know the days that I get up in the morning and after my coffee, even if I just throw on some mascara and brush my hair and pull it back or do something, I feel 10 times better and
Mhm.
am so much more productive during the day. And I just think there's something psychological about it that I'm getting up, I'm getting ready, I don't ever stay in my pajamas all day. That's
Mhm.
one thing that even if I don't do my hair and makeup, I at least change out of my pajamas and put on different clothes.
Mhm.
Because if I don't, then I don't feel like it's past morning. I don't feel like there's anything else to do during the day.
Mhm.
And that's really something that I have stuck through being home, that I do get ready most days
Mhm.
just because it helps me feel ready to tackle the day and get stuff done, because I know the days that I don't get ready, not much happens around here.
Right. I have found too on those days, it's like one more thing to make me feel like shit about myself on. Like,
Mhm.
oh, I guess I'm just like a real winner. I'm still in my pajamas today. Ha ha ha. And like you make a light joke of it. But the reality is like every time you're thinking that, or even if you say that outside, that's a sting to yourself. Like that's a
Mhm.
dig on yourself. And that really, it builds up and adds up. And I'm like, I don't need any other guilt on myself. Like I don't need any other like negative self-talk, negative thoughts on myself. So I love that you are intentional about that. I always say save the sweatpants, and or at least like save the comfy clothes, save the pajamas for the days when everybody's sick,
Yeah.
because there will be days that is completely fine when you're handling 2, 3 sick kids, and you're just doing what you can. But on the Tuesday that everybody's fine and you're just essentially, this sounds harsh, this is my tough love, but you're essentially just like too lazy to just put on another pair of clothes,
Yes.
or you're not prioritizing yourself enough to put on another pair of clothes. There's really I don't have a lot of excuses for that, and I don't have a lot of sympathy for those days, other than, to me, because I've been there, right? So I don't ever want anybody to think that I don't understand, because I was that mom for a while. And in the root cause of that was that I had other issues going on. And so I love that you're able to recognize that for yourself and prioritize, like, even if I don't do my makeup, because I do not do my makeup every day, and I'm very transparent about that. I love a fresh, clean face with no makeup, no mascara, and I'm like ready for the day. And if the day is going to entail a lot of outside activities, or we're going for walks, like, yes, I will get out of my pajamas and I will put yoga pants on and a workout shirt. Like, that is my mom outfit for the day, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But it's the staying in your pajamas for a day. I mean, I still see these memes on Instagram and these videos of like mom staying in their onesie pajamas for like 2-3 days.
I can't do it.
No, I don't know. I just can't fathom that that is healthy though. Like, I cannot
No.
fathom that the mental health is in a good place for a lot of those moms.
Mm-mm.
And I don't mean that in any kind of judgmental way. If moms are doing that, like, we're all about like empowering and, lifting moms up on the podcast. And so if moms do find themselves in that place, what do you think that they can do, Kayla, to like get out of that funk?
I mean, it could be I know for myself, I was in that kind of mommy uniform of leggings and a t-shirt every day, which to me was still better than getting out of my pajamas.
Yeah.
But maybe on those days, you just want to feel pretty and you're going to go and put on a dress. That's something I've been doing recently is I have so many dresses in my closet. Who says I can't wear a dress while playing with the boys?
Mm-hmm.
Like I've several a week, I'll go and put on a dress and I can still look and feel good just because I'm home. And actually, my 4-year-old loves it. I put on a dress the other day and he told me that he's like, Mom, you look like such a princess.
Oh my gosh, that's so
Yeah.
cute.
And I mean, just think about that. That made me feel so good
Mm-hmm.
that my son recognized, oh my gosh, my mommy looks pretty today.
Mm-hmm.
And I just really encourage you to take that step. If you're just wearing your pajamas all day, just change into a fresh pair of leggings
Mm-hmm.
and just see how much better you feel just getting out of your pajamas. You
Mm-hmm.
don't have to be uncomfortable,
Mm-hmm.
but just see how you feel just getting out of your pajamas. It really does help my mindset for the day to get out of my pajamas and semi get ready.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that comes back from your, getting ready for your job when you were still a teacher. Like, you get up, you get ready, and you present yourself to the world. And so I look at being full-time mom the same way. It's like, I get up, I have my morning time, and then I get ready to present myself to the world. Even if it is just my 3 daughters and my husband, but that is my world. Right. And
Yeah.
I'm really proud of that world. And I want to feel good in those moments instead of feeling like I'm ready to go back to bed, because, we talk about transitions and things like that. And that is a transitional moment of getting up and getting ready. That is transitioning into your day and transitioning into those next phases of your day. So I love that. I love that advice. I think I completely agree with that. Kayla, thank you so much for coming on today. I loved all of this mom life conversations, and you're just kicking butt at it. And I'm sure you have your ups and downs and your hard days. And but it just sounds like you've really embraced motherhood and this full-time mom role with just a very solid foundation in coming from your career and letting that kind of trickle into motherhood and being a full-time mom. So where can everybody find you to see all of your amazing baked goods, your adorable dresses, and your Play-Doh kits?
I do pretty much most of my stuff on Instagram. I'm at the farm style on Instagram, and I just basically share random stuff throughout the day, whatever I'm feeling like. If I'm baking for the day, I like to share that. If I found a cute outfit, I'm going to share that also, because I do feel like as moms, we deserve to feel cute.
Mm-hmm. And your makeup tips are so good too.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that goes into the whole package, and it's just very simple ways to feel good at home without feeling like you're completely dolled up and spending hours in front of the mirror to get to that point, which I
Yeah, I
absolutely
mean,
love.
my morning routine takes me 5 or 10 minutes, and I feel put together and I feel good. And taking 5 or 10 minutes to take care of myself is a necessity.
Yeah. And then you're ready. Like you said, then I'm ready for the day, and I'm ready to tackle what comes at me. So Kayla, thank you so much again for coming on. I wish you the best of luck in your journey throughout the summer, and whatever happens, at the end of the summer, if you plan to go back or if you plan to stay home, I know you're going to do amazing at it, and you're doing incredible things. Also just inspiring other moms and other women to follow their passions and live their best life. So thank you so much for all of that.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Hey, sweet mama, thank you so much for listening to today's conversational journey with Kayla. I had a wonderful time chatting with her about all things mom life. I love hearing these different perspectives and these different journeys that moms have been on, because each person, each woman is different in how they come into these roles, how long they stay in those roles. But Kayla has done such a beautiful job of really embracing this moment and this time that she has with her boys at home. And she has really inspired me to continue to pursue things that I'm interested in. I hope you found inspiration in the way that she has embraced motherhood in her own way. So if you would like to learn more about Kayla, or follow her in her motherhood journey, or follow her on her makeup tricks or baking or her adorable outfits that she puts together, please head on over to her Instagram page. I will put all of that information in the show notes below so you can contact her or follow her. So thank you again to all of my amazing listeners. Kayla, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your story with us. I look forward to talking to you all again very soon.